Hi, my name is Alex Carter, and if there's one thing I've learned, it's that curiosity can lead you to places you never imagined. Some of them beautiful, some of them terrifying. This is my story, and trust me, it's not one you'll forget easily. A few months ago, I was just another face in the crowd, a 28-year-old drowning in the monotony of city life, stuck in a tiny apartment with a job that barely paid the bills. Every day was the same. Wake up, work 9 hours, come home exhausted, repeat. I watched my dreams fade into subway noise and fluorescent office lights. That was until one evening, scrolling through an old forum, I stumbled upon a post about secret towns, places untouched by modern maps, forgotten by the world. Most dismissed it as urban legend, but something inside me latched onto the idea. Driven by desperation, I sold what little I owned, packed a single suitcase, and hit the road with nothing but vague coordinates scribbled on a napkin. My friends called me crazy. My family thought I'd lost my mind. Even I doubted myself, but that doubt vanished the moment I turned down that narrow forest road, guided only by the moon hanging low in the sky. Deep down, maybe I wasn't just looking for adventure, I was running. Running from rent hikes, running from loneliness, running from the gnawing fear that my life had no meaning. I told myself I just needed a fresh start. What I didn't realize was that some doors, once opened, can never be closed again. And that's how I found myself in Eldridge, a town etched in whispers, hidden between the folds of reality. A place that shouldn't exist. A place that doesn't play by the rules. I thought I was finally free. I was wrong. It all started on a rainy afternoon, the kind of day that makes you feel like the world is draped in gray. I was driving aimlessly, my mind a whirlwind of thoughts, trying to escape the monotony of my life. The city felt suffocating, its concrete walls closing in on me. I needed a break, a change, anything to shake off the weight of my routine. As I navigated through the slick streets, the rain began to taper off, revealing a glimmer of sunlight breaking through the clouds. I took a deep breath, feeling a flicker of hope. That's when I spotted it. A small, weathered sign partially obscured by overgrown vines that read, "Welcome to Eldridge." I had never heard of this place before, but something about it intrigued me. It felt like a whisper from the universe, beckoning me to explore. Curiosity piqued. I turned down the winding road that led into the countryside. The landscape transformed before my eyes. The bustling city gave way to rolling hills and lush greenery. The air was fresher here, filled with the scent of damp earth and wildflowers. As I drove deeper into the heart of this unknown territory, the sky cleared, and a warm golden light enveloped the surroundings. I felt a strange sense of excitement mixed with apprehension, as if I were crossing an invisible threshold into a different world. The road twisted and turned, flanked by towering trees that seemed to whisper secrets. I rolled down the window, letting the cool breeze tousle my hair, and for the first time in ages, I felt alive. My heart raced with anticipation, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was on the brink of something extraordinary. Little did I know, Eldridge was not just a town. It was a crossroads of fate, a place where the ordinary and the extraordinary collided. As I approached the town's entrance, I had no idea that my life was about to change forever. When I finally arrived, Eldridge was unlike anything I had ever seen. As I drove through the archway that marked the town's entrance, I felt as if I had stepped into a storybook. The cobblestone streets were lined with charming cottages, each one uniquely adorned with vibrant flowers spilling from window boxes. The colors were more vivid than I had ever seen, as if the town had been painted by an artist who had a penchant for the extraordinary. The air was crisp and invigorating, filled with the earthy scent of pine and the sweet aroma of blooming lilacs. I rolled down my window, letting the gentle breeze wash over me, and for a moment, I felt a sense of peace that had eluded me for so long. The sun shone brightly, casting a warm glow over the town, and I couldn't help but smile at the picturesque scene unfolding before me. However, as I drove further into Eldridge, I began to notice something unsettling. The streets were eerily quiet, devoid of the usual sounds of life. No laughter, no chatter, no bustling activity. It was as if the town was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. The few townsfolk I encountered seemed to watch me with a mix of curiosity and caution, their eyes lingering a moment too long before they turned away. I parked my car in front of a quaint cafe that boasted a sign reading the Eldridge Nook. As I stepped out, the silence enveloped me like a thick fog. I hesitated for a moment, feeling the weight of the townspeople's gazes upon me. I pushed the door open and entered the cafe, greeted by the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee. Inside, the atmosphere was warm and inviting, with wooden beams and cozy nooks. A few patrons sat at tables, their conversations hushed, as if they were sharing secrets. I approached the counter, where a woman with kind eyes and a welcoming smile stood. "Welcome to Eldridge. What can I get for you?" she asked, her voice a soothing balm against the tension in the air. I ordered a cup of coffee and took a seat by the window, trying to shake off the feeling of being an outsider. As I sipped my drink, I couldn't help but observe the townsfolk. They exchanged glances, their expressions unreadable, and I felt a shiver run down my spine. It was as if they were all part of an unspoken pact, one that I had yet to understand. Despite the beauty surrounding me, a sense of unease settled in my stomach. Eldridge was enchanting, but it was also shrouded in mystery. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had stumbled into a place where the ordinary rules of life didn't apply, and I was about to uncover secrets that would change everything. As I explored Eldridge, I began to notice oddities that set my senses on high alert. At first, they were subtle, a flicker of movement in the corner of my eye, a whisper of wind that seemed to carry voices. But as I wandered deeper into the town, the peculiarities became impossible to ignore. The clock tower in the town square was the first thing that caught my attention. It stood tall and proud, its face adorned with intricate designs, but the way it chimed was unsettling. Instead of ringing on the hour, it chimed at strange intervals, sometimes every 15 minutes, sometimes not at all. I found myself glancing at my watch, confused by the dissonance between the clock's chimes and the passage of time. It felt as if the clock was mocking me, playing a game I didn't understand. Then there were the shadows. As I walked along the cobblestone streets, I noticed that the shadows cast by the buildings and trees seemed to stretch longer than they should, elongating in ways that defied logic. I would catch glimpses of them out of the corner of my eye, twisting and curling as if they had a life of their own. I brushed it off as my imagination running wild, but deep down, a sense of unease settled in my stomach. The townsfolk, too, added to the strangeness. Their conversations were often hushed, and when I approached, they would fall silent, their eyes darting away as if they were sharing secrets I wasn't meant to hear. I tried to engage them, asking about the town's history and its peculiarities, but they would smile politely and change the subject, leaving me feeling like an intruder in their world. Despite the oddities, I decided to stay for a few days, thinking I could use a break from my hectic life. I rented a small room at a local inn, its walls adorned with faded photographs of the town from decades past. Each night, I would lie awake, listening to the distant chimes of the clock tower and the rustling of leaves outside my window. As the days passed, I found myself drawn to the town's mysteries. I explored every nook and cranny, from the quaint shops to the hidden gardens, but the sense of unease lingered. I couldn't shake the feeling that Eldridge was a place where time and reality twisted in ways I couldn't comprehend. With each passing moment, I felt as if I were teetering on the edge of something profound, something that would either reveal the town's secrets or ensnare me in its web. I was captivated, yet terrified, and I knew that my time in Eldridge was just beginning. It was at a cozy cafe called the Eldridge Nook that I first met Clara. The moment I walked in, the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee enveloped me, and the warmth of the place felt like a comforting embrace. Clara stood behind the counter, her hair pulled back in a loose bun, and her eyes sparkled with a kindness that immediately put me at ease. "Welcome. What can I get for you?" she asked, her voice melodic and inviting. I ordered a cup of coffee and a slice of homemade pie, and as I waited, I couldn't help but notice the way she interacted with the other patrons. She greeted each one with genuine warmth, her laughter ringing like music in the air. After I received my order, I took a seat at a small table by the window, and Clara soon joined me, wiping her hands on her apron. "Mind if I join you?" she asked, her smile disarming. I nodded, grateful for the company. We talked for hours, sharing stories about our lives. Clara spoke of her childhood in Eldridge, her voice filled with nostalgia. She described the town's beauty, the festivals, and the close-knit community that had shaped her. I found myself captivated by her tales, feeling as if I were being woven into the fabric of Eldridge itself. But as the conversation flowed, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to Clara than met the eye. There was a hint of sadness in her gaze, a flicker of something unspoken that lingered just beneath the surface. When she spoke of the town's history, her tone would shift, and I could sense a weight on her shoulders, as if she carried a burden she couldn't share. "Eldridge is a special place," she said, her voice softening. "But it has its secrets, too. Some things are better left unsaid." Her words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. I felt a chill run down my spine, and I couldn't help but wonder what she meant. As we continued to talk, I sensed that the townsfolk were hiding something, an unspoken truth that bound them together in a way I couldn't quite grasp. Clara's stories were enchanting, yet they were laced with an undercurrent of sorrow. I wanted to dig deeper, to understand the town's mysteries, but I also felt a growing apprehension. By the time I left the cafe, I was both enchanted and unsettled. Clara had opened a door to Eldridge, but I couldn't shake the feeling that stepping through it would lead me into a labyrinth of secrets. I knew I had to learn more, not just about the town, but about Clara and the hidden stories that lay beneath the surface. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky in hues of orange and purple, I decided to take a stroll through Eldridge. The cobblestone streets glistened with the remnants of the day's rain, and the air was filled with the sweet scent of blooming jasmine. I felt a sense of adventure coursing through me, eager to uncover more of the town's mysteries. As I wandered, I stumbled upon an old library tucked away at the end of a narrow alley. Its weathered sign creaked in the gentle breeze, and the building itself seemed to exude an aura of forgotten stories. Intrigued, I pushed open the heavy wooden door, and a cloud of dust danced in the air as I stepped inside. The dim light illuminated rows of dusty shelves, each filled with books that seemed to whisper secrets of the past. The library was quiet, save for the soft rustle of pages turning in the wind. I wandered through the aisles, running my fingers along the spines of the books, feeling a connection to the countless souls who had sought refuge in this place. It was then that I noticed a small, leather-bound journal tucked away on a shelf in the corner. Its cover was worn, and the pages were yellowed with age. Curiosity piqued. I carefully pulled it from the shelf and settled into a cozy nook by the window. As I opened the journal, the faint scent of old paper filled my nostrils, and I began to read. The entries belonged to a previous resident of Eldridge, a woman named Margaret, who had chronicled her life in the town. At first, her writing was filled with wonder and joy, describing the beauty of Eldridge and the warmth of its community. But as I turned the pages, the tone shifted dramatically. The entries grew increasingly frantic, filled with ramblings about strange occurrences and unsettling feelings. Margaret wrote of shadows that moved on their own, of townsfolk who seemed to vanish without a trace, and of a pervasive sense of dread that hung over the town like a dark cloud. My heart raced as I read the final entry, the ink smudged as if written in haste. "Once you arrive, you can never escape." The words sent a chill down my spine, and I felt the weight of their meaning settle heavily in my chest. I closed the journal, my mind racing with questions. What had happened to Margaret? What was this curse that bound the residents of Eldridge? I glanced around the library, feeling as if the walls were closing in on me. The secrets of this town were deeper than I had imagined, and I realized that I had stumbled upon something far more sinister than I had ever anticipated. The discovery of the journal marked a turning point in my journey, igniting a fire of determination within me to uncover the truth behind Eldridge and its haunting mysteries. Panic set in the moment I awoke the next morning, the weight of the journal's revelations pressing heavily on my chest. I had to leave Eldridge, I had to escape this town that felt more like a trap with each passing hour. I quickly packed my belongings, my heart racing with urgency. The sun was just beginning to rise, casting a golden hue over the cobblestone streets, but I felt no warmth. Instead, a chill ran down my spine as I stepped outside, determined to find my way back to the life I had left behind. As I drove away from the inn, I felt a surge of hope. But as I navigated the winding roads, my heart sank. The paths twisted and turned in ways that defied logic, leading me back to the town square, as if the town itself was alive, playing tricks on me. I tried every route I could think of, but each time, I found myself back where I started, the clock tower chiming mockingly in the distance. The realization hit me like a cold wave. I was trapped. Desperation clawed at my insides, and I knew I had to confront Clara. I rushed back to the Eldridge Nook, my mind racing with questions and accusations. When I found her, she was arranging pastries behind the counter, her demeanor calm and collected, as if she had no idea of the turmoil brewing within me. "Clara," I called out, my voice tinged with urgency. She looked up, her expression shifting from surprise to concern as she sensed my distress. "I need to know what's happening here. Why can't I leave?" Her gaze softened, and she motioned for me to sit. "I wish I could tell you it's just a misunderstanding," she began, her voice steady but laced with sorrow. "But many have come to Eldridge seeking refuge, just like you. They were drawn here by the town's charm, only to find themselves bound to it forever." I felt a mix of anger and betrayal wash over me. "How could you let me stay here? Why didn't you warn me?" I demanded, my voice rising. Clara sighed, her eyes filled with a deep sadness. "I didn't know you would be trapped. I thought you were different. But once you arrive, the town chooses you. It's as if it feeds off your desires, your fears. You're not the first to feel this way, and you won't be the last." Her words struck me like a physical blow. I had been so naive, so eager to escape my old life that I hadn't considered the consequences. The realization that I was now part of this dark tapestry filled me with dread. I felt the walls closing in, the weight of Eldridge's secrets pressing down on me. I had to find a way out, but now I was not just fighting for my freedom. I was fighting against a force that seemed to know me better than I knew myself. Days turned into weeks, and I found myself caught in a tumultuous internal conflict. The initial panic of being trapped in Eldridge had given way to a strange sense of ambivalence. Part of me wanted to fight against this fate, to claw my way back to the life I had known, while another part was inexplicably drawn to the town's charm. The cobblestone streets, the vibrant flowers, and the warm smiles of the locals began to weave a spell around me, making it increasingly difficult to remember why I had wanted to leave in the first place. I formed bonds with the townsfolk, particularly Clara, who had become a confidant in my struggle. Our conversations deepened, and I found solace in her laughter and the stories she shared about Eldridge. I began to appreciate the beauty of the town, the way the sun filtered through the trees, the sound of laughter echoing from the cafe, and the sense of community that enveloped me like a warm blanket. Each day, I felt more connected to the people and the place, and the thought of leaving became more painful. Yet, as I immersed myself in this new life, I couldn't shake the nagging questions that haunted me. I began to question my own desires. Was I truly seeking adventure, or was I simply running away from my past? The memories of my old life, filled with stress and loneliness, began to blur with the idyllic scenes of Eldridge. I found myself reflecting on the reasons I had left in the first place. Was I escaping the suffocating routine of my job, or was I searching for something deeper, something I had yet to define? The more I pondered, the more I realized that my motivations were tangled in a web of fear and longing. I had come to Eldridge seeking freedom, but now I was faced with the possibility that I was simply trading one form of confinement for another. The town's allure was undeniable, yet I felt a growing sense of unease. Was I truly free here, or was I merely a prisoner of my own desires? As I walked through the town, I felt the weight of my choices pressing down on me. The laughter of children playing in the square, the warmth of Clara's smile, and the beauty of the landscape all tugged at my heartstrings. but the specter of the journal's warning loomed large in my mind. I was torn between the comfort of belonging and the fear of losing myself entirely. In the quiet moments, I would sit by the window of my room, watching the sun set over Eldridge, and I felt the internal struggle intensify. I was at a crossroads, and the path I chose would determine not just my fate, but the very essence of who I was becoming. The question remained, could I find a way to reconcile my past with this new life? Or would I be forever trapped in a town that had ensnared my heart? It was past midnight when the storm reached its peak, rain lashing against my window like desperate fingers trying to claw their way in. Thunder shook the foundations of the inn, and in those flashes of lightning, Eldridge looked like a town from a nightmare, its charming facade peeled back to reveal something darker beneath. I stood by the rattling glass, watching the clock tower's silhouette pierce the storm-lit sky. Somewhere in my bones, I knew what I had to do. The moment the idea took hold, my body moved before my fear could stop me. I threw on my raincoat and plunged into the tempest, the icy downpour soaking through my clothes within seconds. The square was deserted, the townsfolk sensibly sheltered while I ran toward the one place everyone silently avoided, the tower with its broken hands frozen at the quarter hour. Each step up the spiral staircase snapped my breath tighter in my chest. The tower groaned around me, its ancient beams protesting against the storm's fury and my intrusion. Halfway up, the lanterns flickered out, plunging me into darkness save for the blue-white lightning revealing glimpses of the path ahead through cracks in the stonework. When I reached the top chamber, the storm's rage dulled to a muffled roar. Before me stood the clockwork mechanism, an impossible tangle of brass gears and pendulums large enough to walk through. What froze my blood wasn't their intricate motion, but the realization that some gears turned backward while others spun at speeds no machinery could sustain. Woven between them were threads of ivy that pulsed like veins, merging metal with living vegetation in a way that defied nature. A small, rusted lever protruded from the central gearbox. As another peal of thunder shook the tower, I understood. This wasn't just controlling the clock, but Eldridge itself. The town's unnatural time, its looping days, the way shadows moved wrong, all flowed from this corrupted heart. My fingers hovered over the lever as the ivy tendrils nearest me twitched in anticipation. The chamber temperature plummeted. Behind me, floorboards creaked under weight that hadn't been their seconds before. I didn't need to turn to know the townsfolk had come to stop me, perhaps Clara among them. As thunder cracked directly overhead, I made my choice. With a scream tearing from my lungs, I threw the lever down. The clockwork exploded into motion, gears shrieking as if alive. The entire tower trembled, and I knew this was no longer just about escaping. Now I was fighting for my soul. With trembling hands, I pulled the lever down with all my strength, feeling the weight of my decision reverberate through my body. The moment the mechanism engaged, the clock let out a deafening clang, and the gears screamed in protest. A blinding light erupted from the heart of the clock tower, enveloping me in a cocoon of brilliance. I felt a rush of energy surge through me, as if the very essence of Eldridge was being pulled apart, unraveling the threads that had bound me to this place. In that moment, time itself seemed to freeze. The cacophony of the storm outside faded into silence, and I was suspended in a realm of pure light. Memories of my time in Eldridge flashed before my eyes. Clara's warm smile, the laughter of the townsfolk, the haunting whispers of the journal. Each moment was a thread in the tapestry of my experience, and I felt them intertwining, forming a complex pattern that spoke of both beauty and sorrow. When the light finally faded, I found myself standing at the edge of the town, the familiar cobblestone streets now a distant memory. The road ahead was clear, stretching out before me like a promise of freedom. I turned back, my heart heavy as I watched Eldridge recede into the distance. Its charm, once so enchanting, was now replaced by a haunting emptiness. The clock tower loomed in the background, a silent sentinel over the secrets it had guarded for so long. I had escaped, but the weight of my experience lingered in my chest. Eldritch had taught me invaluable lessons about the dangers of running away from one's past and the importance of confronting the shadows that lingered within. I realized that I had been searching for adventure, but what I truly needed was to face the unresolved pain that had driven me to this town in the first place. As I drove away, the landscape shifted from the quaint charm of Eldridge to the open road, and I felt a sense of freedom wash over me. The wind whipped through the open window, carrying away the remnants of my fears. Yet, alongside that freedom was a lingering sadness for those who remained trapped in the town's grasp. I thought of Clara and the others, bound to a place that had once offered solace but had turned into a prison. With each mile that passed, I vowed to carry the lessons of Eldritch with me. I would no longer run from my past. Instead, I would embrace it, allowing it to shape me into a stronger person. The road ahead was uncertain, but I was ready to face whatever lay beyond, armed with the knowledge that true freedom comes from within. And that's my story. It's a tale woven with threads of adventure, fear, and ultimately, self-discovery. I hope it serves as a reminder that sometimes, the places we seek for solace can hold secrets we're not prepared to face. Eldridge was a town that beckoned with its charm, but beneath its picturesque surface lay a darkness that ensnared the unwary. If you ever find yourself in a town that doesn't exist on any map, remember to tread carefully. The allure of escape can be intoxicating, but it may lead you into a labyrinth of enchantment and despair. The journey I undertook taught me that running away from our past only prolongs our struggles. True freedom comes from confronting our fears and embracing the lessons they impart. As I reflect on my time in Eldritch, I carry with me the bittersweet knowledge that while I escaped its grasp, many others remain trapped in its web. Their stories linger in my mind, a haunting reminder of the choices we make and the paths we take. So, if you ever find yourself drawn to a place that feels too good to be true, pause and listen to your instincts. The heart of a town can hold both beauty and darkness, and it's up to us to navigate the delicate balance between the two. In the end, it's not just about finding a place to belong. It's about understanding ourselves in the process.